The Fancy Pants Adventure series is getting close to 20 years old, which leaves a lot of room for random facts many people may not know. I wanted to stay away from easier facts, such as the years each game came out, because that is simple research anyone could do with a little effort. For the research, we were able to use Discord messages, the board game's website, and YouTube videos to confirm information, as we want to make sure we are as accurate as possible. To make it a bit easier to follow, I have organized facts into self-explanatory categories such as Outside the Game, World 1, World 2, World 3 / The Fancy Pants Adventures, World 4 / Super, and Random. So with the help of Fancy 2209, we collected 55 fancy facts that surround the series we thought were interesting enough to put into a video. Brad Bourne is the creator of the Fancy Pants series, and he started in college while majoring in psychology.
What is your educational background?
Psychology.
One would think he would have been in something like computer science, but Brad goes on to explain how psychology helps.
You can look at how people enjoy certain parts of games, and I mean, if you take game development as a psychological, in a psychological aspect, you can actually learn a lot about how other people who aren't you interface with your games.
I think this shows that anybody can go make games even without going to school for it. Someone who often gets underappreciated in the Fancy Pants series is Fairly, who is not only the wife of Brad, but writes the canon, dialogue, and was an early tester of World 1, among other things to make the games happen. Throughout this video, I'll be using a lot of Fairly's messages to back up and confirm information. The Fancy Pants games go through a lot of testing, and some of the most honest and enthusiastic testers, according to the Board Game site, are Brad and Fairly's 3 boys who give new ideas and crazy concepts. They can be seen sometimes in Brad's live streams and videos playing the games. Fancy Pants is more influenced by Mario 3 and the Looney Tunes Game Boy game, and not Sonic. Brad talks about it in one of his videos.
Fancy Pants is more influenced by Mario 3 and the Looney Tunes Game Boy game, which I still need to do a playthrough of. And then it might be more obvious why that is. It's a pretty random one.
Fancy Pants Man is confirmed to be 16 years old and Cutie Pants is 9. His age gap is the same as Brad and his sister, which seems to be intentional. Though the age is the same between Brad and his sister, Cutie Pants is actually based off of one of Brad's cousins and not his sister. I do want to mention in the 2018 live stream, it is suggested that Cutie Pants is 6 years old.
I can only imagine the reaction when you're like, no, I have one and it's a 6-year-old pigtail girl who likes unicorns and playing
being a
princess.
pirate.
The Discord messages saying she is 9 wasn't until a few years later, which she could age up, but I think we can chalk it up to a change in story direction. Brad and Fairly had 2 cats, one named Chuck and the other named Norris. Norris is orange, which is fitting because he's the voice actor for Caboodle. Brad and Fairly made a whole Christmas mini book about how the Angry Rabbit stole ice cream, which I won't include in this entire video, but you can find it somewhere in the Fancy Pants social media pages if you want to read it. Fancy Pants Man has been featured in a couple different games such as Shift 3, Newgrounds Rumble, Framemakers, and Mirror's Edge 2D, and is an indie game the movie poster. He was also going to be in Super Meat Boy, but for whatever reason, he did not make the cut alongside some other characters. During PAX East, Brad had Fancy Pants related pins that fans could get if they said hi. I got myself a couple, even if I think I'm missing a few.
I was able to use my cousin privileges and get a couple, so here they all are. I figured I could show them off. They're a little messy on the side, but I don't know what happened, but they're still pretty cool. There they are.
Yours truly made it onto the Born Games website when I was around 9 years old, because Born Games had an ad for my Cabbage Roll team, and I was the first team to have it on the shirt. Of course our team was orange, and it matched perfectly. If you don't know what Cabbage Roll is, just imagine baseball with a bigger and much softer ball. In early World 1 builds, a lot of the sounds were from Mario games, such as the coin sound and also the door sound, which they're just very out of place. The games get compared to Sonic a bunch, but there's only one level from the first game that was directly inspired by Sonic.
And this level is interesting for another reason. It's as much as everybody compares the Fancy Pants Adventures to Sonic, this is the only level that was directly inspired by Sonic. So even when I was working on it, people would mention Sonic and play through the Sonic games, and I really liked it, the marble zone, the moving, it's super frustrating doing Sonic because of how slow Sonic starts up. But I thought that would be an interesting mechanic to kind of dart through and have the level changing, so I'm just make it feel a bit more alive, because everything's sketchy and full of energy.
The sound effect is Brad making a high-pitched sound and the MacBook's microphone peak to make the sound more impactful.
It's like, but it's the mic on the MacBook, or MacBook Pro, it peaked it so that it sounds like a hit.
In an early version of World 1, there was a sign about flipping a table. I'm not really sure why, but it does exist for some reason. The only thing I could really guess is that it was a meme at the time and it was put in. The music was composed by Gear Arnold, also known as API, and was only 16 years old at the time, which considering how good and iconic each song is, makes it just that much more impressive. Speedrunners consistently beat World 1 in just over 2 minutes, with the world record being by Dillcat, who achieved a time of 2 minutes and 10 seconds. The any percent category is the most run game of the series, but the inconsistent game and strats separate players' times by seconds or even milliseconds. There was a series of challenges for the remix, but sadly these are lost media now since Flash was discontinued. Looks like they were called Floor is Lava, Squiggles Get, and Angry Dragon Birdemic, but personally I never got to play any of them. In an interview with Two Left Thumbs, Brad stated he goes back to World 1 Level 1 because to him it is fancy pants.
Maybe you had a compromise where you're like, I can't really get away with that. And
there wasn't too much of that because I keep going back to Level 1, World 1 just because it's so distinct to me. Like that to me is fancy pants. And whenever I think that was I would test the newer, if any changes I made to the engine, I would go back to there and see, if it played, if it still felt familiar to me.
Brad truly cares about how each game feels, and by going back to World 1, you can tell if new changes feel like a fancy pants game. While writing down facts for this video, I saw a video by Luciousness doing a glitch for World 1.
What? Yeah, have you not seen the original?
No. The game, I mean. I don't know what happened. It's stuck. I've never seen this before. Hold on. I don't know what I pressed.
While playing World 1, if you hit Ctrl F plus R, then the screen will pause and so will enemies. The camera completely stops following Fancy Pants Man around, but I'm not even sure why this works. World 2 won a Newgrounds or Tank Award for Game of the Year in 2009. It was only the second annual Newgrounds Tank Award show.
And the Game of the Year is Fancy Pants Adventures World 2 by Brad Bourne. Congrats, Brad! You won! Congrats, Brad! Great work, Brad! We look forward to seeing Fancy Pants Adventures World 3 in 2009. Or not. Congrats, Brad!
The first game of the series that Fancy Pants holds a pencil is in World 2, but he wouldn't use it as a weapon in a Fancy Pants game until the console game in 2011, although the first time he ever uses the pencil as a weapon in any capacity was Newgrounds Rumble in 2008. In Level 3, you get the black pants by getting the golf shell all the way to the top left. In a beta version, the golf hole did not exist yet, and Brad didn't know you could get it to that spot because he would post on his website, "My cousin eDuckface on here just sent me this picture. What the? Can anyone else do this?" With the picture of the shell all the way at the top. This is the reason we have that golf hole in the game. There's an official version of World 2 that replaces some textures with Christmas themed items. Some things that were changed were Fancy Pants wearing a Santa hat, the snail shells are Christmas presents, and the flagpoles are Christmas trees. The bonus room with the B trophy was based on another game that Brad, Tommy LM, and Gear were working on at the time called Fraser's Ride. The game is based off an animation called Fraser's Hat that Tommy LM had made. Fraser's Ride was put on hold so Brad could finish World 2, but it was never finished. In the original World 2 Level 4, a spider can be seen playing the Wii console, but the art was changed for the console and mobile game. Instead, the Wii was replaced by a generic console, which we can assume was due to copyright reasons. In Adam Phillips' bonus room, there's a waterfall that was supposed to be animated, but the animation didn't make it into the original game. It wasn't until Classic Pack where the waterfall animation was put back in, which is a small detail but really adds to that level. Brad did a live stream where he drew mustaches on Fancy Pants Man and the other characters of the game, such as the spiders, snails, and most importantly the squiggle. Most of the 2-hour stream was animating the snail, and this might just be the weirdest fact in this video.
This is now a good game. I like this.
In the original World 2, Level 3's Endor is on the very top left, but when looking back on it, Brad questioned why it was there in a World 2 Remaster Report video.
Many years later, why is there nothing over here? I think this is where I'm gonna put the exit door, honestly.
The original troll.
Yeah, that's weird. I must have just forgot.
The part that caught my attention was him saying that he was going to move the door, which we can see him actually do in the Classic Pack World 2 Remaster version of the game. When Fancy Pants leans against the wall and he does the finger gun, it was inspired by Uncharted. Just as in the Uncharted games, both characters will lean against the wall when you go up to it. Brad made this post on Bourne Games saying he bought the PS3 for Uncharted, so it makes sense it would influence Fancy Pants in some ways. World 3 is the only game in the series to have the ability to swim, which allows players to go underwater and move around. It is also the only game to have the wall climb ability, which allows the player to gain some more height after sticking to the wall. There is a glitch in the Fancy Pants Adventures for mobile that allows the player to climb the wall by using the pencil move Sawblade. By hugging the wall and then using Sawblade, it gets cancelled and you can keep doing it to gain height. A weird decision was made to allow each mouse to be omnidirectional. This means the gun can be aimed at Fancy Pants from multiple directions, but in all the other games in the series, the mouse doesn't do this. I'm not sure why this decision was only made for World 3, but I'm glad it didn't return in the next game. Flash World 3 is missing levels that were in the console and mobile version because the game was taking too long to come out. Brad would pull up images of levels and would redraw them all himself. There are also hats and pencils that aren't in there for the same reason the game was taking too long. The Fancy Pants Adventures for mobile has done the best out of all the mobile games in the series with over 10 million downloads, compared to Super with only 5,000 downloads respectively. TFPA has a ton of unused content, such as an ability where we would have used Caboodle, and a lot of unused levels. There are a ton more that I would love to show off in a video in the future though. There is scrapped content where Captain Rainbowbeard was supposed to have a pet dog in World 3 based on another real life pet they had. Brad did 33 World 3 reports where he showed off upcoming levels, art, and whatever he was working on at the time to bring us behind the curtain on the game's progress. Even after playing the game, I would recommend watching all of them if you're a fan of the series to gain that much more appreciation for it.
Hey internets, I'm Brad Bourne and this is the first World 3 progress report. So the idea here is I'm going to try to start posting videos with some sort of consistency, just to show you guys what I'm working on at the moment, and hopefully motivate me to get the game out a little sooner.
Super Fancy Pants Adventures was released in 2017 on Steam but was re-released as World 4 in 2020. Brad released it this time for free and it didn't include the entire game as an incentive to buy the full game. Another reason he did this was because it gave people something to do during the COVID lockdown. The wall run didn't see a return for Super after it was in World 3. One reason Brad stated was because he felt it was too slow. There was a goal on Brad's Patreon to bring it back, which it did eventually get hit, but it still doesn't look like it'll be coming back. Brad stated on Discord, well that wasn't even long enough to code/reanimate it, so... There's a beta for the game, and to access it you need to use the code KittenCaboodle. The beta allows players to access a level menu, add more players, and unlock a few more things in the arcade machine. In the arcade machine, you can enter the specific golf level and you will see a reference to a certain meme. The meme is the one of a basement with a GameCube and a CRT set up with the picture of Iwata, but the picture is replaced with Mayor. It's a pretty random reference to be put into the game, but is on par with how random Brad can be. The game got an update on June 19, 2019 that would accidentally put a green dot over the fox hat, most likely a leftover reference point. It wouldn't get fixed until years later on a beta update of the game in 2024. Super was featured at a big speedrunning event called Awesome Games Done Quick in 2020 by runner I Have Newt in the New Game Plus category. The game was run on a beta patch, which was added about 2 days before, which allowed for text to be run through faster and made a world record even more likely.
Well, the developer just added, and I mean like 2 days ago, added the ability to skip through text like really quickly.
Super is the first and only game in the series so far to have the pen, which brought in some cool new moves such as Inkboarding, Ink Shooting, and Ink Dash. We may see it come back in future installments, but nothing has been confirmed yet. Modders have found ways to customize the pen since there is no in-game customization for it. Here's the hot dog. I just want to beat some people with my... I'm not going to say that. Pirate tokens were eventually supposed to be added that would be like World 3 stars and unlock golf levels, but Brad never actually has added those to the game. The image of these tokens are in the game files, and it is unclear whether they will ever get added. The idea of ink boots was thrown around at some point in development, which would allow Fancy Pants Man to slide and jump onto ink enemies, which currently you can't do as they just hurt him. We know this because in a live stream, Brad responded to a complaint about how you can't slide into ink enemies.
I almost want to do the last update for Super would be like a pair of shoes that let you jump and slide through the inks. Just to give that game a send-off. Like, fine, guys.
Boots.
Yeah, well...
So you don't have to,
Yeah, like inky shoes. It would be like the last upgrade. And then we'll send that game off into the sunset.
Brad has done some April Fool's jokes revolving around the game, such as announcing a one-button infinite runner that added Flappy Bird pipes to a level he was working on at the time. He would also tease a Super Switch port and pass it off as an April Fool's joke and did a Battle Royale joke. At some point, Brad made the decision to sell fancy keys where players could use real money to unlock certain things in his games. There was a $2, $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100 tier. For example, the $2 key would unlock extra World 1 remix levels, hats, and soundtrack downloads. It seems like Brad eventually ditched this and focused more on Patreon. The name of Cutie Pants Cat is actually inconsistent among platforms. In TFPA console mobile, it is spelled Caboodle with a D, but in Super Fancy Pants, it is spelled Caboodle with a T. The Fancy Pants series has a history of canceled Nintendo ports, with both the Super Fancy Pants Switch and the Fancy Pants Adventures Wii ports getting cancelled. Not too much is known about the mayor of Squiggleville, except we have learned from a post by Fairley in the Discord that he used to have great hair as he was in an 80s hair band. The games are known to be silly and unserious, but what most people don't know is that the code also is the same in some ways. For example, there's a your mom joke in the code, and it says, "Squiggle get your mom." There are some other examples such as this one, and yeah, Brad even says it's pretty standard practice for him. I want to shout out Figure 8 because he sent me these images and is the only reason I know about the funny code. World 5 is technically still in pre-production, and you can play an early build of it if you're a member of Brad's Patreon. For the public, only certain pictures have been released by Brad, so sadly I can't show off any new gameplay, but go support Brad and play it. Fancy Snowboarding wasn't supposed to be a Fancy Pants game, and there's early concept art that has a completely new character as a snowboarder. Eventually it got changed and Fancy Pants was the main character. Currently in the Guinness World Record book, Skullgirls has the record for the most frames of animation per character in a video game, with 11,515 frames across its 8 playable characters. This averages out to 1,439 frames per fighter. Fancy Pants has 4,372 frames in Super.
What is like 5,000 unique frames of animation? Something, or 8, what is it? It's like twice as much as the current world record holder, which sounds way too much for the what it would actually be.
So depending on how Guinness counts it, Super should have the record. Thanks for watching the 55 Fancy Facts that I had a ton of help putting together. I couldn't have done it without Fancy 2209 and the many other sources that were used to put each fact together. I used small snippets of video to help, so I encourage everyone to watch each and every one of them in its entirety. For that reason, I have linked all the facts and videos down below in the description. Well, I think that's all I have, and I hope you enjoyed the video.
Congrats, Brad!